When asked to name a prehistoric giant, the default answer is dinosaur. This is a strategic error, a bet placed on cinematic fame rather than functional dominance. Relying on this fan-favorite bias creates a dangerous blind spot, causing us to misread the competitive landscape of entire geologic eras. The most obvious giant is rarely the most effective apex performer. Our audit of the fossil record rejects size for its own sake. We will use a different metric, strategic dominance, measured by biomass impact and niche security. Consider the Elliott Formation in the early Jurassic, an environment supposedly belonging to the dinosaurs. The largest known carnivore there was not a theropod. It was a 7-meter amphibian nicknamed the Beast of Lutu. This creature represents a critical data point, an outlier that breaks the conventional narrative. Its existence proves that apex status was a contested position, not a foregone conclusion. This analysis is a performance review of Earth's forgotten giants. We will treat prehistoric ecosystems as competitive corridors and evaluate these animals as strategic assets. By focusing on logistics, chokepoint control, and resilience, we can identify the true titans who anchored their environments. This isn't a list of popular monsters, it's a diagnostic of who actually won. Our audit begins in the early Jurassic Elliott Formation of South Africa, a corridor traditionally seen as an early dinosaur proving ground. This view, however, is a strategic miscalculation. The dominant force here wasn't a theropod, but a member of an older, more successful lineage, the temnospondyls. For over 200 million years, from the Carboniferous to the Cretaceous, this amphibian order achieved a level of global diversity and niche occupation comparable to the later success of placental mammals. They were a strategic constant, adapting to fill roles from small foragers to apex predators across the planet. In the Elliott Formation, their dominance is anchored by a single specimen known as the Beast of Lutu. Based on a massive jaw fragment, this creature represents a temnospondyle estimated at 7 meters, or 23 feet, in length. With a multi-ton, robust body, it operated with the logistical efficiency of a modern crocodile, a low-energy, semi-aquatic ambush predator. Its operational theater was the waterways, turning every riverbank into a high-risk chokepoint for any animal needing to drink. The cost to move for such a giant was minimal, while the threat it posed to the local fauna, including early sauropodomorphs and other dinosaurs, was maximal. The performance verdict for this ecosystem is clear. The strategic metric isn't fame, but who holds the title of largest carnivore. In the early Jurassic Elliott Formation, that title belonged to a giant amphibian. This single data point invalidates the simplistic Age of Dinosaurs narrative for this time and place, proving that in certain corridors, older dynasties still held the strategic high ground. But this was just one model of dominance. In other regions, different non-dinosaur giants were solving the problem of terrestrial logistics in entirely different ways. While the Beast of Lutu perfected a low-cost, semi-aquatic strategy, other corridors demanded purely terrestrial solutions for achieving massive scale. A direct comparison of two late Triassic environments, the Esquigualasto Formation in Argentina and the Lisowicia clays in Poland, reveals two fundamentally different approaches to non-dinosaurian logistics. Each corridor presented a unique set of operational pressures, resulting in two distinct models of dominance. In the Esquigualasto corridor, the winning design was logistical efficiency, embodied by Lisowicia. Reaching up to 10 meters long, this chuvasaurid was the largest bipedal animal of its time that was not a dinosaur. By adopting a two-legged stance, it optimized for mobility and reach, functioning as a high-browsing herbivore with a beaked, toothless mouth. This bipedal model was a masterclass in structural engineering, achieving immense length without the corresponding energy cost of a heavy, quadrupedal frame. It solved the problem of terrestrial movement through agility and an efficient design, a strategic choice that prioritized grazing range over heavy armor. The Polish corridor produced the opposite solution, Lisowicia bojani, a 9-ton dicynodont. This was not an agile browser but a terrestrial tank, the heaviest known non-mammalian synapsid. As a massive, four-legged herbivore, its logistics were defined by sheer bulk and stability, with a 4.5-meter-long body of almost pure mass supported by absurdly robust bones. This design maximized resilience, but its security exposure was still significant. Fossil evidence reveals bite marks attributed to Smok wawelski, a 6-meter predatory archosaur. This demonstrates that Lisowicia's defense was not simply passive size, it was a necessary adaptation to survive direct threats in a high-risk environment. The comparison reveals a clear strategic trade-off. Argentina's corridor selected for the efficient, lightweight logistics of Lisowicia. Poland's high-threat corridor demanded the resilient, heavily built model of Lisowicia. One optimized for movement, the other for defense, proving that even on land, different geographic pressures produced entirely different blueprints for success. The most dangerous corridors, however, were often the transition zones between two distinct domains. The transition between land and sea creates the ultimate geographic chokepoint, the shoreline. This narrow corridor is a zone of maximum vulnerability where terrestrial animals are exposed and aquatic animals are constrained. During the Triassic, the nothosaurs perfected a strategy to exploit this weakness. While often overshadowed by fully marine plesiosaurs, certain species were masters of the semi-aquatic ambush, turning the beach itself into a weapon. The species Nothosaurus giganteus exemplifies this principle. Reaching up to 7 meters, it was far from a simple fish eater. Its ability to operate both in shallow water and on land transformed the shoreline into a lethal trap. Unlike fully aquatic predators, it did not have to wait for prey to enter deep water. It could patrol the boundary, posing a direct threat to any land animal at the water's edge. For its victims, there were no viable reroute options. The need for water or coastal resources forced them into a high-risk corridor controlled by a specialized predator. This was chokepoint dominance, turning a geographic feature into a tactical advantage. This strategy was not unique to the Triassic. Millions of years later, during the Miocene, a different giant perfected its own version of shoreline control, Pontolis magnus. This was a 4-ton walrus, weighing as much as a male Asian elephant and operating along the Pacific coast of North America. Its logistics were fundamentally different from modern pinnipeds. While living walruses used tusks to feed on bottom-dwelling mollusks, Pontolis lacked these features. Instead, it evolved a titanic skull twice the size of a modern walrus's, armed with powerful teeth designed for piercing and crushing large prey. Its operational model was one of pure predatory efficiency. The strategic metric here was meat-only dominance. Pontolis was an active hunter of other large animals, including seals, marine birds, small cetaceans, and even the pups of Megalodon. It was a pinniped that traded a specialized feeding niche for an apex predator role. Both Nothosaurus and Pontolis prove that controlling the transition between domains is a timeless strategy, creating high-risk corridors where logistics are defined by ambush and exposure. While some giants mastered ambush and geographic chokepoints, others dominated entire corridors through a different strategy, overwhelming mass. During the Eocene, the Brontosaurs perfected this model of terrestrial control. These thunder beasts were not true rhinos, but their convergent evolution produced a tank-like body plan that proved highly successful. For over 20 million years, they expanded across the forested corridors of Europe, North America, and Asia, becoming a defining, immovable feature of the landscape. Their primary strategic asset was their sheer scale, which created an effective barrier to entry for predators. In North America, Megacerops stood 2.5 meters at the shoulder and weighed 5 tons, making it one of the first land mammals to achieve this size. For the predators of its time, a healthy adult was not a viable target. The energy cost and risk of injury were simply too high, rendering it untouchable. This was not about active defense, it was a passive security system built on a logistical calculation. The Brontosaur's bulk made predation an unprofitable enterprise. In the Mongolian corridor, this strategy was taken to its extreme with Embolotherium. Pushing the 9-ton mark, this genus was once thought to wield its distinctive facial structure as a massive battering ram. However, analysis revealed the horn was largely hollow and thin-walled, making it a poor weapon for high-impact combat. A more recent interpretation is that it functioned as a resonating chamber for communication, a tool for social signaling, not brute force. This represents a sophisticated layer of resilience. Instead of relying solely on combat, Embolotherium likely used vocalizations to maintain herd cohesion and intimidate rivals, reducing the need for costly physical conflict. The Brontosaurs demonstrate a strategy of environmental dominance through presence alone. Their 5 to 9 ton weight class made them the logistical anchors of their ecosystems. By combining overwhelming physical scale with advanced social tools for communication, they secured their corridors not by exploiting narrow weaknesses, but by becoming the most significant and immovable feature within them. Their success across 3 continents confirms the power of a strategy where size itself becomes the ultimate form of security. While Brontosaurs secured terrestrial corridors through overwhelming mass, a different form of dominance was perfected in the planet's freshwater systems. Rivers and lakes have always been critical choke points, forcing land animals to expose themselves at the water's edge. This created a permanent security vulnerability, one exploited by specialized apex predators who turned the shoreline into a kill zone, demonstrating choke point control in its most direct form. The Carboniferous period provides a prime example with Rhizodus. This 7-meter, 1.5-ton rhizodont was not merely a large fish, it was a purpose-built ambush predator. Inhabiting the rivers of North America and Europe, Rhizodus was armed with fawn-like teeth longer than those of a T-Rex. This lethal hardware implied a strategy beyond simply swallowing prey whole. It could attack, kill, and dismember large tetrapods. Analysis of its powerful frontal fins suggests a capacity for explosive lunges, enabling it to launch from the water to snatch animals from the shoreline. For any creature in its ecosystem, the simple act of drinking became a life-or-death gamble against an unseen threat. This strategy of riparian control evolved. By the Cretaceous, the giant coelacanth Mawsonia presented a different logistical model for freshwater dominance. While not as long as Rhizodus, it was far more robust, with large individuals estimated to weigh 2 tons. It inhabited the same river systems of Africa and South America as the famous Spinosaurus. While the dinosaur patrolled the water's edge, Mawsonia owned the water column. Its strategic advantage was suction feeding on an industrial scale. Like an oversized Goliath grouper, it likely used its enormous mouth to create a powerful vacuum, engulfing large fish, crocodiles, and any unwary dinosaur that ventured too close. The strategic metric here is absolute freshwater dominance in a highly contested environment. Mawsonia was not just potential prey for Spinosaurus, it was a competing giant, proving that even in an ecosystem with a famous theropod, the apex position was situational. Both Rhizodus and Mawsonia served as the ultimate gatekeepers of their respective river systems. They weaponized the chokepoint of the shoreline, controlling access to a non-negotiable resource. Their different predatory models, piercing ambush versus suction engulfing, show multiple paths to achieving the same strategic end, making the boundary between land and water the most dangerous place to be. The performance audit is complete. The verdict is clear: betting on fan favorites is a strategic failure. Our analysis shows that the true anchors of prehistoric ecosystems were not always the most famous. Giants like the Temnospondyls, Lisowicia, and Rhizodus achieved dominance by controlling critical geographic chokepoints and securing their niche through superior logistics, not just raw size. This proves our popular view of the past is a narrowscope error. True greatness is a performance metric. If this diagnostic framework delivered value, the next audit will apply it to uncover another set of forgotten strategic players.